today's show, we're going to find out how to totally get your car ready and paint it. So you've got your original stuff. We're going to rip all this off, clean it up, get it ready for painting. We're going to prep it, prime it, paint it, all before the day is out. Here's the tools you're going to need. Screwdriver number 1 for ripping off the ridiculous molding on the car. You're going to need a straight razor for getting the pinstriping off and any other crusties that are stuck on the car. You're going to need this tool to pry open your paint cans. We don't need that right now. And you're going to need 400 grit sandpaper, Breakfast of Champions. So let's get started. I'll show you how to do it. Okay, step number 1 is to rip off this ridiculous molding that Ford Motor Company thought would look really cool on the side of the car. Now, not many people know this, but this car is still made of metal, except for these things, plastic. Listen, metal, plastic, big difference. The good news is we can rip this sucker off in like 1 minute. So get your screwdriver in there, wedge it under, and just start prying it off. Here, watch. Once you get some started, you can just grab it and yank it off. Look at that. All it is, it's just a little bit of sticky tape from 1995. That's the only thing holding this on. So, rest in peace. Let's get rid of this. And now we're ready to continue. So we've got our molding ripped off, but now we've got to get all this sticky stuff off. That's where Mr. Straight Razor comes in. You just get them moving along there and start peeling off this yucky, tapey stuff and do the best you can. And at this point, it doesn't really matter what it looks like because all this stuff is going to get painted over anyway. But you want to get your razor under there and don't cut your finger off. That would be very messy and add a whole nother instructional video about first aid that I don't have the time to make. But we're going to go ahead and keep scraping this off, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. By the way, once you start this, there's no going back. So unless you're really committed, don't do what I'm doing now, because it will be very sad if you change your mind. But anyway, we're scraping away here, still scraping, trying to get all this goo off. Don't worry about making scratches on the paint and everything, because we're going to sand all of this in a second. Okay, so now that all this goop is off, next we've got a razor blade off the pinstriping. Pinstriping is another ridiculous thing that people who make cars often do. They think that it makes the car look really awesome, but really it's just sort of annoying. So we're going to have to razor blade these off too. I'll show you that. Okay, so here's our pinstriping. This has got to go. It will be very problematic when we try to paint over it. So it's better now to do it right with Mr. Razor than it is later to have an ugly paint job. So just get it under it and then start dragging it, and it should just sort of peel off like that. And if you're not good with like people's nails on the chalkboard and stuff like that, you'll have a hard time doing what I'm doing now because it makes some really bad sounds. But look at that, it's coming off pretty easily. Sometimes your pinstriping will be really old and nasty and it'll sort of get crusty and stuff, but look at that, it's coming off real easy. Doesn't have to be perfect, just make it good enough so that when we go back with the sandpaper, it'll all lay down sort of evenly when we sand it. So let's finish that, then we'll be back. Okay, so we've got all the pinstripes ripped off, we've got the molding ripped off. Now it's time for the long and exciting process of sandpapering. got all the crusties off. Now I said 400 grit sandpaper, but sometimes you got to bring in the big guns if it won't come off and drop into 2 or 100 sandpaper. But you might notice as you're going, you get these big rips and shreds and cuts in your paint. So that's why we need Bondo glazing and spot putty. This is great stuff. It's pretty much like toothpaste, except it turns rock hard. So what you do is wherever you have a cut or a scrape or something that you want to cover it up, you just smush this stuff on, and then what we'll do after it dries is we'll sand it down, and it should give us a good surface that we can paint on without seeing any of this stuff that we did to the paint. So we'll do that, and then we'll sand it. So now that we got everything sanded, let's wipe it down, make sure we got it all cleaned up the way we should. Okay, everything looks good now. Just wipe it down, make sure we got all the surfaces, and it's got to be all clean at this point because we're done sanding. So now we have to mask off the parts of the car that we're not going to tape, so that when we start using spray paint, it doesn't get everywhere. So let's do that.